When my team reached them, there were only two. I need you to understand what that word does to a search, because I have worked this desert a long time, and I have never once gotten used to it. Two. We had gone out looking for three young women who walked into Saguaro at noon in 114 degrees, and we found two of them, and the empty space where the third one should have been was the loudest silence I have ever stood in. They had spent that whole day doing things for a camera, and the last thing the camera talked them into, the thing that turned a bad afternoon into the worst day three families will ever have, was the most ordinary move in all of content. It is a move you have watched 100 times without thinking about it once. They split up for a shot. This is one of those stories. Welcome back to Doomed Departures. What you are about to hear is a composite. The three women are invented built from the same profile of confident, camera-ready people I warn every summer, most of whom listen. No real person is named. I'm going to call myself Elena, and the three of them Kayla, Sofia, and Bree. This is a dramatization. The park is real, the heat is real, and the specific way this desert takes people who feel completely fine right up until they do not is very real. I have worn this uniform at Saguaro for a long time. This is Tucson's park, or the two halves of it are, wrapped around the city on the east and the west. And it is one of the most beautiful deserts on Earth, a whole forest of giant saguaro cactus standing with their arms up like a crowd that has been waiting a very long time for something. People come here from all over the world to walk among them, and I would send anyone. In the right season, at the right hour, it is a gift. At noon in the summer, it is something else, and almost nobody who dies out here believed that until they were already inside it. Let me start with the sentence that killed them, because it is a sentence, and you have said it yourself, and I want you to never say it again the way they meant it. The sentence is, it is a dry heat. People say it like a comfort, like a loophole. As if the desert being dry is the thing that makes it survivable, the reason 114 out here is somehow gentler than 90 in a swamp. And I understand why they think it, because dry heat feels better. It does. You do not get that heavy, soaked, dripping misery you get in humidity. You feel, if anything, cool and light and fine. And that feeling is the single most dangerous thing in this entire park. Here is the truth underneath the sentence. In humid air, your sweat sits on your skin and you feel it, and it is disgusting. And that disgust is information. It is your body telling you, loudly, that you are working too hard and losing too much. In dry air, your sweat evaporates the instant it reaches the surface of your skin. You never feel wet. You never get the warning. You are losing water faster than you have ever lost it in your life. 1 liter an hour, more. And your body is not sending you the one signal you were built to read because the desert is drinking your sweat before you can even feel it leave. It is a dry heat. Yes. That is exactly why it can kill you while you are still smiling. Dry heat does not feel like drowning. It feels like winning right up until the end. I have pulled fit young people off these trails who could not tell me their own names, whose skin had gone dry and hot because they had run clean out of the water to sweat with, and more than one of them, when they could talk again, told me the same impossible thing. They told me that right before it all went wrong, they had felt good, better than good. They had felt like they were finally handling the desert. That is not a coincidence, and it is not bad luck. That good feeling is a symptom. In this heat, feeling like you have got it beat is one of the last things you feel before you find out you never did. Now let me tell you about Kayla and Sofia and Bree. They were content creators in their early 20s, and they were good at it. I want to say that clearly because the lazy version of this makes them silly, and they were not silly. They had a real following. They made short videos, the fast, bright kind, trends and challenges in beautiful places, and they had come to Saguaro to make the desert look like the backdrop it is in every ad you have ever seen. Gold light and tall cactus and 3 gorgeous friends living their best day. And they would have. The footage would have been lovely. That is the thing nobody tells you about how these end. The plan was good, the content would have worked. The only problem with the whole day was that it did not account for the desert being real. Kayla was the one who ran things. Every group has one, and she was it. The one with the vision. The one who had scouted the spot online and knew the shot she wanted before she ever arrived. The one whose energy the other two ran on. Sophia and Bree were the steadier two, and I say that with the benefit of knowing how it ended, but even in the little I saw of them that morning, you could feel it, that Kayla was the engine and the other two were happy to be carried by her, the way friends are. And I want to be careful and fair about Kayla because it would be easy to make her the villain of this, and she was not one. She was not careless. She was the opposite. She was the one who had planned the whole trip, who had a shot list, who knew the light and the angles and had thought about all of it for weeks. Everything that made her good at what she did, the drive, the vision, the refusal to settle for the ordinary version of a thing, is exactly what walked her up that trail alone. Her strengths did not fail her. Her strengths are what killed her, because out here they pointed in precisely the wrong direction, and there is no crueler way for a person to die than to be undone by the best thing about them. They came to my station a little before 11, which is already late, and this is rung 1, and I gave them the whole talk. I told them it was going to hit 114 degrees. I told them there is no water on these trails and no real shade, that a saguaro is a magnificent thing, and it will not shade you, that a cactus forest is not a forest in any way that helps a person. And I told them the thing about dry heat, the real thing, that feeling fine out here is not the same as being fine, that the desert takes your water without ever letting you feel it go. Kayla thanked me, warm and bright, and turned to her phone and said something to her audience about how they had this, how it was a dry heat, how everybody worried too much. And the three of them laughed, and it was genuinely charming, and it went straight past every word I had said, into the same place all my words go with people like this, which is nowhere. But I gave them one more thing, and it is the one that matters most in this story, so I'm going to tell you exactly what I said. I told them to stay together. I told them that out here, the single most important safety equipment they had was each other. That a group that stays together is a group where somebody can always go for help. And a group that splits up is 3 people alone who happen to have started at the same trailhead. I told them, do not separate. Whatever you do out there, stay within sight of each other. That is rung 2, and it is the one I replay, because Kayla nodded at me when I said it, and I believed her. And she meant it, right up until the desert offered her a better shot than staying together would allow. I want you to really hear why that rule exists, because most people think staying together is about comfort or about not getting scared, and it is not. It is arithmetic. 3 people together is a system with backups. If one goes down, one can stay and one can run for help, and the person in trouble is never alone with it. The moment those 3 become 1 and 1 and 1 spread out across the desert, every one of those backups is gone. Each of them is now a single point of failure, alone, with no one to notice if she stops moving. Staying together does not make the desert less hot. It makes you findable, and it makes you rescuable. And it is the cheapest safety there is, and it costs you nothing but the hero shot. There was a couple at my station right after them, older, and I gave them the same talk, and they took one look at the thermometer and said they would come back at dawn and do the sunrise instead, and they did, and they are fine. I always tell you about the ones who listened. The warning was free, and it was clear, and it was the same for everyone. One group heard a number and moved their whole plan to a cooler hour. The other group heard the same number and moved nothing, because the plan was built around the light, and the light does not care what the temperature is, and neither, in the end, did they. They started up the trail a little after 11 into the climbing heat, 3 young women in bright clothing, carrying a few small water bottles and a lot of camera gear. For the first while, it went beautifully, and this is the trap of the dry heat doing its quiet work. They felt great. They were laughing, filming, stopping at every good saguaro, and every stop was a shoot, and every shoot kept them standing in the sun far longer than a hiker would ever stand there. And the whole time, they felt light and capable and fine because their sweat was vanishing off their skin before it could ever tell them the truth. A regular hiker in that heat is trying to get in and out fast. A crew is trying to make something good, and making something good takes time, take after take, in the worst of the day, while the one warning system their bodies had was being silently switched off by the very dryness they kept joking about. Somewhere out there, a returning hiker passed them, saw the small bottles and the big grins, and told them it was brutal ahead and offered them water. That is rung 3. They thanked him and told him they were good, on camera, because being good was the brand, and taking a stranger's water would have meant admitting they had not brought enough. And they were sure, going a little further. Let me ask you something, because this is not really about a cactus. When was the last time you felt completely fine and took that feeling as proof that you were fine and kept going on the strength of it? Not a thought, just the feeling. The drive you were sure you were awake enough for, the situation you stayed in because nothing had gone wrong yet. Tell me below, because feeling fine is not information out here. In a dry heat, it is the specific LIE the desert tells you while it empties you out. And these three trusted that feeling all the way to the place where the trail gave Kayla the idea that killed her. She saw the shot. I know she saw it because of where things ended up, and because I have watched 1,000 people see exactly the same shot, and I know its pull. It is the hero shot. One person, alone, walking away down a desert trail into all that open gold, nothing. Tiny, against the giant cactus in the mountains, no one else in frame. You cannot get that shot in a group. The whole point of it is that the person is alone. So to get it, somebody has to leave the others behind. Kayla went ahead alone. That is the hinge of this entire thing, and it did not feel like a decision at all. It felt like the most normal move in the world. She told Sofia and Bree to film her from back here, or she set a phone or both, and she walked on ahead, up the trail to be small and solo and perfect against the desert. And they agreed to meet up at the next junction, and everyone was laughing, and it was fine. It was the last time the three of them were together, because here is what the dry heat had already done, invisibly to all of them by that point, and to Kayla worst of all, because she was pushing hardest for the shot. Their water was mostly gone. Their bodies were deep in a deficit none of them could feel. And heat does one thing that nobody films, which is that it takes your judgment before it takes your legs. Long before a person collapses, the part of the brain that would say, we need to regroup right now, has already gone soft and slow. So the exact decision that would save you is left to the organ that is failing first. Kayla walked ahead to get her shot with a brain that was already, quietly, no longer good at estimating anything, including how far she had gone and which way was back and how much trouble she was in. And the desert out past that junction looks the same in every direction. That is the other thing I had told them, and the other thing that did not land. Off the main line, among the cactus and the washes, one stretch of Sonoran Desert looks precisely like the next, and there is no landmark that stays put. And a person who is even slightly turned around and slightly overheated can walk with total confidence in exactly the wrong direction, feeling the whole time like they know the way. Sofia and Bree waited at the junction. Then they waited longer. And this is the cruelty of the separation. The reason the rule exists, the reason I say stay together until people's eyes glaze over. When Kayla did not come back, the two of them had no good options, and every option they had was worse than if they had never split at all. They did not know which way she had gone past the point they could see. They were low on water themselves and getting confused themselves. They could go looking and risk getting lost too, or they could wait and hope. And both of those are the choices of people who are already in trouble. And there was no third friend to send running for help, because the third friend was the emergency. Sofia wanted to go back down for a ranger. I believe that, from the way they were found, from small things I am not going to lay out here. The quieter instinct, the right one, was in that group the whole time, the same way it always is. Somebody almost always says the safe thing. The problem is that saying it and being heard are two different events, and out there, hot and frightened and worried about a friend who had vanished up the trail, the group did what frightened people who love each other do. It did not split up again to send one for help. It went to find Kayla, all of it together, deeper in. They went looking for her. Of course they did. You do not leave your friend in the desert. And two overheated people searching cactus washes in 114 degrees off the trail with almost no water is simply three people in danger instead of one. And now all three of them were off the one line that anyone searching would think to walk. I am not going to walk you through their last hours, and I am not going to put you out there in those washes, because they were three real young women and not a spectacle, and this channel has a line I will not cross. What I will tell you is that heat illness, once the judgment is gone, does not feel like an emergency from the inside. It feels like being tired and confused and needing to rest, and a person in it can still walk, still talk, still believe they are handling it, right up until they are not. Their car sat at the trailhead all afternoon and meant nothing to anyone, because a car at a trailhead is just a car. Their phones went hot and died in the heat, which did not only end the filming, it ended the one thread of location any of them had, so that 3 young women with a real audience became exactly as findable as 3 people with no one, which is to say not findable at all, until somebody happened to notice the car was still there as the day ended. That is when we went out in the last of the light and then into the dark, up a trail 3 young women had walked in the worst heat of the day, calling 3 names into a desert that gives nothing back. A night search on open desert is not the worst kind if the people can still answer you, because a headlamp carries a long way out here and a voice carries too. But you have to reach them while they can still hear. And that is when my team reached the 2 of them, Sofia and Bree, together, where they had stopped and radioed back the word that I started this story with. 2. We have 2. And then the long, terrible pause on the radio before the only question that mattered, the one none of us wanted to be the one to ask, which was, where is the 3rd? Because 2 is not 3. 2 is a number that starts a whole second search at night for one more person, somewhere off the trail, alone, exactly where the splitting up had put her. We found Kayla later and farther off the trail in the direction of her shot, alone, exactly where the separation had left her. The rulings were heat-related, all 3. There was no crime, no animal, no fall. There was 114 degrees and a dry air that lied to them about how fine they were, and a rule about staying together that got broken for a photograph, and a young woman who walked ahead alone to look small and perfect against the desert, and found out that the desert does not care how the shot turns out. If any of this reached you, do the small thing that carries it to the next group about to split up for a better angle. Like this video so it finds someone at a trailhead instead of a comment section, and subscribe so you are here for the next one. Not for me, and not for a number on a screen. Do it so that one more crew of friends, somewhere, hears a ranger say stay together and stays together, and gets a slightly less cinematic shot and 3 people who drive home alive, which is the only kind of footage worth anything at all. I have turned this one over more than most, and here is where it leaves me. The dangerous idea was never that they were reckless, because they were not. It was 2 small pieces of bad information that everyone carries and almost no one questions. The first is that a dry heat is a safe heat, when a dry heat is the one that kills you smiling. And the second is quieter and stranger, and it is the belief that being near people is the same as being with them. They were a group. They arrived together, they cared about each other, they would have done anything for each other, and none of that mattered the moment they could not see each other. Because a friend 50 yards away and around a wash is not a rescue. A friend 50 yards away is a second person who needs rescuing. Together is not a feeling. Out here, together is a distance, and the distance is the whole thing. I think that one gets people because we spend our whole lives being safe in crowds, in cities, in rooms full of people where near enough really is together, where somebody would notice, where help is a shout away. We carry that feeling out into the desert without ever examining it, and the desert is the one place it stops being true. Being one wash over from your friends here is the same as being on the moon from them. The togetherness they had built over years of friendship was real, and it followed them onto that trail, and it was worth nothing the moment the ground put a few hundred yards and some cactus between them, because the desert does not care how close you feel. It only cares how far apart you actually are. Kayla wanted a shot of herself alone in the desert. She got it. That is the part I cannot put down. The desert gave her exactly the thing she walked away from her friends to find, which was to be small and solo and utterly alone in all that beautiful open nothing, and it turns out that is not a look. It is a fact, and it is the last one, and no camera was running for it because the camera was back at the junction with the 2 who did everything right except let her go. The trail is still out there, and the light on those saguaro at the end of the day is still one of the most beautiful things in this country. And the sign at the trailhead still says the same words it said to them, that it is 114 degrees, that there is no water, that you should stay together. The sign was never talking about somebody else. Next time we leave the dry heat behind for cold water, where there is no shot worth getting and no rule about staying together, will save you. And the water takes the strongest, most confident person on the trip anyway, for no reason at all, but the water being water. This has been Doomed Departures. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.